My name is Jessica and I'm going to be providing you with extra tools and resources beyond the framework we gave you for when you approach group decision making. We have laid down a solid framework for you and your team, but these extra resources may be helpful for you if you have any unanswered questions or are looking for some more specific insights. They are organized categorically, and below the topic is a link that you can go to in order to read a practical and specific article on the associated topic. I will just be giving you a brief summary of these articles along with their importance, so at any point feel free to pause me, copy the link, and check it out for further information. The first section I would like to talk to you about is troubleshooting tips for some common problems that you may encounter as you try and make group decisions. To begin with, we'll talk about decision-making gaps. Sometimes our logical process for approaching and forming decisions may be flawed, with or without our realization. All of us have cognitive biases due to how our brains have been designed. It tends to be a universal characteristic of humanity. For example, confirmation bias is where we tend to look for information that confirms rather than disconfirms our ideas. Ultimately, these biases lead to a flawed decision-making process and poor outcomes. First, we must recognize these biases and then take steps to counteract these tendencies. You can read more about them and the specific steps to counteract them at these 3 links here. Secondly, all of us have blind spots that are due to our upbringing, culture, or personality. However, how can we identify our blind spots if by definition we are blind to them? Blind spot analysis leads you through a systematic audit of your decision-making process. This analysis checks your thinking against common blind spots, including invalid assumptions, escalating commitment, tunnel vision, overconfidence, or leaping to conclusions. If you don't know what these are, don't worry. You can read about them here, as well as specific tips to overcome them. Finally, we need to avoid jumping to conclusions, especially false ones. The link below goes through a tool called the Ladder of Inferences that helps individuals to avoid jumping to wrong conclusions by breaking down the steps of how we normally arrive at these judgments. Often, our previous beliefs often interpret our observations in order to reaffirm our already held assumptions. However, as you may have already discovered, these are not always correct, and it's definitely not an objective process. The Ladder of Inferences helps to work through these assumptions by processing the facts piece by piece. We would also like to give you some tools to improve team function. Team motivation is crucial for participation and engagement, which ultimately leads to quality decisions. It requires leaders to release their employees in empowerment, remove obstacles, and provide adequate support. Ultimately, rewards and punishments are not enough to foster motivation and participation despite popular belief and practice. Motivation must be intrinsic, and the leader must ultimately learn to release control. In today's ever-changing environment, a lot of decisions and their solutions depend on constant innovation and creativity for success. Leaders must not only foster this innovative spirit, but overcome the common barriers to creativity, such as groupthink, shyness, and fear. Unfortunately, as much as there are teams that function, there are teams that dysfunction. Some of these dysfunctions may be due to the distrust and divisive nature of rumors. It's a disease that infects every office and team and will affect both decisions and performance as teams become further disunited by its destructive power. Fight against these spreading weeds by fostering communication and integrity within your team. Another common dysfunction within a team, especially in the decision-making process, is groupthink. This is where the desire for consensus overrides common sense and logical thinking, causing everyone to simply agree without truly expressing legitimate concerns or opinions. This groupthink can be disastrous for decision-making. The causes are varied, but to counteract it, there must be systems in place to challenge assumptions, validate the decision-making process, and evaluate the risks involved. Sometimes a team can simply have poor group dynamics. Multiple personalities come together in one room and can sometimes clash, interrupting the process and productivity of a team, leading to poor decisions. A leader must strengthen group dynamics so that the team can become united and effective. Other times, a dysfunctional team is caused by the power of emotions. This can be detrimental to both the individual, the team, and the process of decision making. The following article goes through practical steps to dealing with some of these negative emotions, specifically anger, frustration, fear, and unhappiness. Negativity as a whole can shut down new ideas, create distress, and spread quickly throughout the team. Managing it becomes crucial as the decision-making process can break down in the midst of it. Management begins with the leader's own attitude and must go to the source of negativity within an individual and an organization. Conflict. Conflict is inevitable in any context where you have people working together. It can be difficult and devastating when handled improperly, or worse yet, not handled at all. A healthy environment with proper conflict management skills should not only be developed in your team prior to conflict, but steps to overcome conflict and make it a positive experience should also be implemented. However, we must remember that not all conflict is bad. This positive conflict should be encouraged and implemented, as it's important for generating group creativity and counteracting groupthink. However, remember that this positive conflict has certain characteristics that doesn't resemble all forms of conflict. These characteristics are being idea targeted rather than source targeted. Read more about it at the article here. There are also times when you will have difficult individuals on your team. We've all met them. There are individuals who we call rebels, who just seem to resist every form of authority, tradition, and control. If managed correctly, these often independent and bright individuals can become valuable assets to the team. Tools on how to do this include understanding, focusing, coaching, and encouraging the individuals, and can be learned further at this link here. There may also be individuals, especially in settings where members of the group do not have the same goals, who are concerned more with winning the argument than collaborating. If collaboration is to occur in a negotiation with people of separate interests, we need to focus on the bottom line. 4 questions reorganize everyone's thoughts around the central issue so that ego is moved aside and no longer involved. Although we talked about team negativity, sometimes we'll have people who are just pessimistic all the time. Negativity, as I said before, spreads quickly, and a so-called negative Nelly can have the talent of sapping all the energy and optimism out of the room towards an idea or a decision. This article gives you some ideas for refocusing and managing these pessimists while still using their valuable perspective. Trust is essential for safety and maximizes group potential and cooperation. In decision-making, a lack of trust means that everyone is not willing to be vulnerable to share their ideas and therefore make the best decision. This article gives several strategies for fostering this trust within a team and among its members. Conversely, it is just as important, if not more so, for your team to be able to trust you as a leader. The leader must prove himself or herself trustworthy through actions such as self-disclosure, honoring commitments, being accountable, being an ethical role model. If you don't believe me when I talk about the benefits and importance of trust, take a look at this article here. Trust is a competency that must be developed and not taken for granted, as the financial cost of distrust is high. The next category I would like to address is equipping you with some practical tools for you and your team throughout the decision-making process. Skill development tools. These are tools for the area of your skill development in decision-making. This link provides you with a self-evaluation tool for your personal skills, which you can also distribute and have your team filled out. You cannot know where you need improvement if you first don't generate self-awareness of where you are weak. Team building exercises are a powerful way to unite a group, build strengths, or address weaknesses. Certain ones build cooperation, others trust, and still others develop decision-making abilities or positive team dynamics. Look through the options at these links here and see which ones your team could benefit from. Next, we have specific tools for helping you and your team create and analyze multiple alternatives that you can come up with in decision-making. A decision tree analysis is a practical model that provides a physical representation that sorts and demonstrates decisions and alternatives, as well as uncertainties and their equivalent cash value. Learn how to do this at this link below. A cash flow forecast outlines cash flow through your business in the categories of operations, financing, and investing. Teams gain an understanding of available or excess cash for future endeavors, which is important for understanding resources you have before making a specific decision. The following tools are useful for evaluating a single alternative, which you can then repeat for all the alternatives you may have come up with when analyzing a decision. Force field analysis is a practical tool that helps a team evaluate the forces for and against a proposed change. The result is the ability to better manipulate a proposed change and know whether or not to proceed with the decision. Cost-benefit analysis is a straightforward method to weighing costs and benefits of a future project or decision. It is best used for quick and simple financial decisions rather than super complex ones. A SWOT analysis looks at the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of a decision or strategy. It is a simple and comprehensive method to examining both internal and external forces, which is essential for risk analysis and therefore decision making. Finally, our last category is some further reading on some subjects that we may not have covered, but we thought might be useful to you. Problem-solving frameworks. There are a few specific problem-solving frameworks that have shown success, which you may want to incorporate into your group decision-making framework. 6 Thinking Hats is a model that helps a team examine decisions from multiple perspectives and different thinking styles, such as historical, emotional, defensive, positive, and creative-based perspectives. Examining a situation from all angles before making a decision allows multiple thinking styles to be expressed, giving everyone a chance to be heard, as well as introducing valuable information for your decision. We've all heard of the devil's advocate. Playing the devil's advocate is very useful for examining the weaknesses of a proposed alternative. The following case study outlines its uses and benefits in problem solving and decision making. You may be in an opportunity where you first have to assemble a team or a group before then tackling a decision. The following article will provide you with some tips to help you understand your purpose and values, as well as then moving on to getting the right people and properly motivating and rewarding them. This will set up your system so that you can make proper decisions. Our last slide is on risk. Risk is the probability of failure and its resulting consequences. It is important to evaluate the risks of different alternatives so that you can make a well-informed decision. To do this, threats must be identified and risks properly estimated and managed. This article will guide you through the steps on how to do this. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope these tools will be helpful to you as you journey with your team through decision making. Some of these articles may require a membership to Mind Tools, which is only $1 for the first month with cancellation at any time. They were of great use to me, and I recommend the membership for at least the first month for just $1 so that you can gain access to these individual tools that I have listed here. All of the resources listed in the PowerPoint, along with the references used by my teammates, are on a separate PDF on this page. Feel free to look through the PDF as the links are listed there. Copy and paste them instead of going back through the PowerPoint. On behalf of all of us, myself, Fatima, Dwayne, Priyanka, and Susie, we'd like to thank you for listening, and we hope that now you're ready to tackle the decision making as a group up ahead.